Quinny boy. How are you, mate?
Oh, we're back to Quinny boy. I'm good, mate. How are you?
Yeah, good. I don't know how to introduce it any other way now. Just comes naturally.
No, it's stuck. I don't mind it. I'm used to it now. I don't expect anything else, actually.
Yeah.
So we'll just keep rolling.
I'm going to
with it
get you by surprise one week.
You will. You'll hit me with something I'm not expecting,
Yeah.
and you throw me off guard. Ruin the podcast for everybody.
It just feels right, though. It just feels right.
You know what? If it feels right, just keep rolling with
all
it.
right. Absolutely. How'd you find the footy on the weekend?
It was good. Tigers won again, so I was happy. But no, it was an interesting week of footy, as it always is. Some results we may not have seen coming, some results I may or may not have predicted in my big call. And and then there wasn't really as many close games as what we've seen. We've had a few really tight contests the last few weeks. We saw a few thrashings this week. So depending which side of the coin you're on, good times.
Yeah, for sure. I think you can really see the top 8 starting to take some shape now, I reckon. I don't think it's going to change too much from what is currently in it. I think Did Richmond just sneak in?
Yeah,
Richmond
we're 8th.
Yeah,
We're 8th.
yeah. So
we feel at home again.
yeah, well, you're playing like you should be there. So I can't see a change. Then you look at the bottom 8 and you think maybe we keep putting this faith in the Bulldogs, but they're not delivering. But then at the same time, we know how good they can be. So they're probably the only other likely one that could come in, and then you got Port, who's
Port's only a game out.
yeah, they're making a charge. So then who goes out of that 8 right now?
Well, St Kilda potentially, Richmond potentially.
Saints were 4th 2 weeks ago.
We've seen the way Sydney's been playing as well. They're shaky.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't think Sydney will fall out of the 8, but who knows? So, I think it's going to be a bit like last year where no one wants to finish in that 8th spot.
Yeah, I think that bottom half of the 8 is going to be up for grabs. And, dare I say it, the top 4 is looking pretty good at the moment as well. I can't see any team in that top 4 that doesn't deserve to be there.
Oh, I can see 1 or 2, but it is looking like a strong top 4 at the moment, though. I think everybody that's in there have played really good footy this year, so hard to argue, sadly.
We'll get to the top 4 a bit later. Well, let's start. You brought up Port before. Are they back? And is the big call back from, well, not me, but you took the reins this last week?
I think I may have revived the big call for the Pressure Point podcast. It was going downhill, and I think I've given it a pulse, brought it back to life. I wasn't quite on the money. I did say Port would win by 30 plus, and they won by, I think, 17 in the end. Yep. So I wasn't too far off, though. But I think Port may just be back. I mean, I wasn't too convinced after they beat West Coast, because I think everybody's going to beat West Coast this year. And then they beat St Kilda, but it was a really scrappy affair. And, I mean, it wasn't a good game for either side. So I didn't have too much faith in them then, but I thought if they can get the Dogs, then they're every chance at sort of reviving their season. And they won by 17 points, home deck as well, which always helps. But yeah, I reckon, I don't know if they're back to top 4 prelim finals type Port Adelaide, but I think they're good enough to squeeze into the 8 this year for sure.
Yeah, it's good. I don't think we ever really ruled out Port Adelaide even when they were 0-5, because you just know it's Port Adelaide. Like what's going on here? We know they're better than what they are, and yeah, they. Now you could probably say against West Coast, it was like whatever, and then the game against the Saints last week in those conditions. But I think this shows that all right, I think Port are starting to make a charge now, and like their forward line's starting to really fire too. Like Todd Marshall's probably having a breakout season. Georgiades was good. Finlayson was good. He's probably played his best game since crossing over.
And wait till Dixon comes back into the lineup.
Yeah, exactly. So, and then Robbie Gray's back, who's playing some good footy. Travis Boak, Ollie Wong, like the usual suspects are playing really well. So
Ollie really has been good too.
Yeah,
back on the side.
If any team's going to do it and come from where they've come from, it's going to be them. So, and I think their fixtures quite lenient to them over the next few weeks as well. So that could be in the top 8 by next week. So, which is huge.
And that's the thing. I mean, Richmond have just snuck in, I think, on 16 points, and then behind them there's a few teams all on the same. It's just percentage separating us now. So you're right. Anyone could sneak in at this point.
Yep. What about the Dockers? They just keep marching on.
Yeah, the Dockers are another one now. They're a little bit like Melbourne in the sense I kind of expect them to win every week.
Yeah.
It's not a surprise when they pull off these wins anymore. I mean, they had North Melbourne, so it was never going to be anything special to get the job done. But 78 points, pretty comfortable margin.
Well, what do we? You just mentioned North. What do you make of them? Like they've had some tough opponents lately, but
yeah,
their scores have been atrocious.
Well, 3 goals 6 for the whole game. That's so poor. I mean, yeah, I can't imagine being a North Melbourne fan right now. They're not really giving any hope. And early days, we sort of had a bit of faith in him, didn't we? I remember pre-season and then even round one and all that, we sort of thought, geez, these guys might be all right. Not, at top 8, obviously, but we thought they might be a lot better than that they have been. But
they haven't improved.
If West Coast weren't in the league, they'd be bottom of the ladder.
Yeah.
So they haven't gotten any better, and I don't see any signs of them getting any better either, really. And do they have any injuries that I'm not thinking of? I don't think they do. I'm pretty sure they've got pretty much a full team.
Yeah, no major ones. So, I mean, they've had Cunnington out, which is probably is a big loss.
Cunnington's probably more of that big spiritual loss. Like, obviously, he's a great player too, but he's probably towards the end of his career now. He's an older bloke, so he's not going to be that real grunt type, win you games of footy off his own boot at this point of his career. But I guess maybe having him around sort of uplifts everybody, and that could be a factor as well. But you're right. I think he's probably the only big name I can think of that isn't playing at the moment.
Yeah. I think they're at the same time though, they are rebuilding. They're on a journey. But geez, you'd want to see at least some competitive spirit in their games because they've been smashed the last few weeks. I don't think they've gotten close. Freo beat them by 80 points. The Blues beat them by 50 points last week, and then Geelong beat them by about 10 goals, 70 points the week before, and then the Bulldogs smashed them on Good Friday. So they've had a bad run. And yeah, as you said, if West Coast weren't in the league, or if West Coast didn't have the issues that they had, then yeah. Do you think it'd be worse, like the criticism on them, if West Coast weren't around? No,
not particularly. I mean, no, I think because North Melbourne, they're not, I don't know how to word this without just absolutely trash talking North Melbourne, but I don't want to say they're a nothing club. They don't get that media attention that some of the bigger clubs do get. They're almost like an interstate side at times in the sense that they kind of get swept under the rug, some of their performances. And I think because we know they're rebuilding, people are happy to accept the fact that they're going to lose like that just because they're rebuilding. I don't think North fans would be happy to accept it, probably because of the lack of effort that you see at stages. But yeah, I think the reason why West Coast is getting more attention is because West Coast should be a final side. And obviously with everything going on there, they're just not going to be. So that's probably why West Coast has stolen a lot of the attention. But yeah, I think West Coast, North Melbourne, regardless, would probably be having the same amount.
Yeah. All right, what about your boys?
Mate.
Dusty and Lynch?
Up and about. I got a message from a friend of mine, Yanni, on the weekend, and the message simply stated, "Are we officially back?" Which I'd love to say yes, but I mean, it's hard to say. We beat West Coast and we've beaten Collingwood, which was a good win. I'll take the Collingwood one for sure. But we just played really good footy. It was good to see. Tom Lynch, 6 goals. I think he had 11 marks, 25 disposals. He had 18 disposals and 5 goals at half time. So I don't know where Darcy Moore was. I read Titus O'Reilly's weekly wrap-up that he does, which is quite funny. And he said Darcy Moore was so far away from Lynch that people in the corporate boxes were closer to him, which I thought was hilarious. But it was true. Darcy Moore, he is a bit more of an intercept defender, I guess. But when Tom Lynch is playing well, and he was on early as well, you'd think he'd stick a bit closer to someone like that. But although he kicked 6 goals, that wasn't the story of the game. The story of the game was obviously my man, Dustin Martin, back in the side, uplifting.
Good to see.
He had 23 and a couple of goals, which is, I guess, a classic Dusty game. He doesn't really get high number of disposals anymore like he used to. He doesn't need to have those 30 disposal games to be impactful. And he kicked his 2, had a fend off, which the crowd went nuts for. It was high. I don't know if you saw it, but it was high on Nick Dacos. But it was great to have him back, and I think you could tell the players loved having him there, the fans loved having him there after such a interesting journey that he's been on. We're obviously not all aware of what exactly was going on in his head, but it was just good to see him back out there. Yeah,
for sure. It was great. I loved it. And yeah, Dusty's one of my favourite players to watch as well. And he just looked like he picked up where he left off. Was classic Dusty Martin, although he did look a bit rusty in the first quarter. Rusty Dusty.
Dusty.
That's a good one. But yeah, after half time, he really got going. And then just played the classic Dusty way.
Yeah, well, that's why I probably thought they should have brought him up through the VFL, just to give him that bit of match experience.
Match experience?
Yeah, match experience. I can't even joke about that. No, you're right. I think the first quarter is probably just finding his feet a little bit, just getting used to the being back playing again. It's been, 8 weeks since, or was it not 7 weeks? Well, when was round 1?
He's essentially played one game in half a year. Because when did he get injured last year?
Yeah,
he missed half of the end.
He did play some of the pracky matches, though, if you want to count those. But you're right.
Actual AFL games.
Yeah, he's played one game in about nearly half a year. So he's missed a lot of footy. So it was good to see him back out there. And he played reasonably well, and he's only going to get better, you'd imagine, with more game time under his belt. But one thing I did want to touch on that I was upset about, and if I was doing Crimea River this week, I'd be bringing it up in this, but Dusty Martin and Fox Footy. So for those who don't know, Fox Footy reached out to the Richmond Footy Club during the week and said, look, basically Dusty's back. We want to try and get an interview before or after the game with him, because it's Dusty and everyone wants an interview with Dusty. Richmond pretty much said doesn't want to do an interview. Like, there's no chance. He doesn't want to do it. Anyway, on the day, Sarah Jones, after the game, tried to grab Dusty and he pretty much just waved her away, gave her nothing. And Nick Rewalt went down to the rooms after the song and tried to grab Richmond's media manager and get someone to organise the interview just to ask him a few stock standard questions, apparently. And just Dusty never appeared and nothing ever came from it. And now there's a bit of talk about whether, that's right. Should players have the right to just deny the media and media attention and all that, just, considering their contracts are largely paid by these media organisations like Fox Footy and all the rest of it. And honestly, if someone's obviously been through a hard time and it's a sensitive thing, obviously they're not going to want to talk to you. Respect it, and they've said during the week, that's like you going to ringing a restaurant and saying, hey, can I come for dinner tonight, booking for 5? And they go, sorry, we're booked out. And then you rock up and crack the shits when they say there's nowhere for you to sit. Yeah. They've told you that he didn't want to do an interview. Why would you then go and ask and then be surprised when he says no? So, and that's not just for Dusty, that's for any player. If any player's coming back or, just in general isn't up to doing an interview for that day, because, we're so aware of mental health and all that these days. And sometimes the attention is a lot for people. I mean, Bailey Smith famously talked about it not too long ago, how he sometimes struggles with the attention, but you should be allowed to deny an interview. It doesn't matter how much they're paying for it. I mean, if the AFL or Fox Footy is hanging on Dusty's 30-second interview after the game to survive, then they've got bigger issues than Dustin Martin not doing an interview for them. So for mine, if someone doesn't want to do an interview for whatever reason it is, just let them be.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree. I think eventually they'll get an interview from Dusty. But I think his first game back, emotions are high. I reckon just let him be.
Oh, that's it. 4 or 5 weeks from now, he'll probably do an interview after the game. But he doesn't give much anyway, so I'm not sure
he's never done interviews. So, why are they surprised?
I mean, Nick Rewalt did a sit-down with him, I think, a year or two ago. It was like a one-on-one thing at Fox Footy, and he didn't give much then. And he even spoke to Dusty about why he doesn't like it. And Dusty just blatantly told him, I don't really like media. I don't enjoy doing it. So then for Nick to then go down to the rooms and try and grab him after, you know what I mean? Especially after what he's been through lately. It's like, are you even listening to what he's saying? It's disrespectful. Yep. So, I mean, I know a lot of people are going to have a different opinion, and maybe I'm biased because it's Dusty, but I think this for all players, not just Richmond players.
Yeah. If
you don't want to do an interview, it's not an easy thing to do, stand up in front of the media, and you see some players definitely struggle more than others. So that's just my opinion on that.
Yeah. I mean, you look at his Norm Smith speeches. Yeah, there wasn't a lot to it.
I think the first 2 years he said yellow and black, and then after that he said let's go. So he's not really a man of many words, is he?
No. I mean that's the whole mystique of Dusty, though, isn't it? That's why he's Dusty. He's a very mysterious man.
Well, it is. Yeah. Well, we had this conversation yesterday for Mother's Day. We had lunch together, obviously, and we were chatting about the different players and how some cope with media attention and some don't as much. And we were saying, well, some of the players from the outside, think almost thrust themselves into having more attention by what they post on social media and this and that. And then there was a counter argument that, well, yeah, but if they don't do that, then they're not going to attract these brand deals and all these things that bring them in other income, which then I rebuttal with, well, Dustin Martin hardly posts anything and he's the most marketable guy in footy. Yeah. It's because of that mystique. But I also do believe that that's not going to work with every player. No. So Bailey Smith is obviously the other one that's massive at the moment. He's cotton on. I mean, he's everywhere, and rightfully so. Yeah. But I think if Bailey Smith didn't really post anything, that wouldn't work for him. He doesn't strike me as that type of guy that would get away with like the mystique, sort of no one knows about him. I feel like you need to see a lot of Bailey Smith, if that makes sense. So I think everybody's different, but I think it is interesting how that mystique of Dusty makes everyone so much more interested in him. Yeah, no, completely agree. But yeah, we've dwelled on Dusty media for a while, haven't we? But it's a passionate topic. No. Well, absolutely it is, and we could do a whole podcast just on Dustin Martin. So. But we shan't.
No, maybe one day. The Gold Coast Suns on the same day as the Tigers. This went a bit under the radar.
Well, this was one of the upsets I referenced earlier with unexpected wins, and I didn't think Gold Coast were going to fly up to the SCG and knock over the Swans up there. But
they do it all the time.
They do, don't they? They do. They do it a lot, but just you kind of forget the past, especially with the Suns, I guess. They're not really a memorable side without
They're a
being
nothing
rude
team
again.
is what you're gonna say.
I'm shitting on another side again
Irrelevant
today.
is what you're saying.
They're a little bit irrelevant, especially down in Melbourne when no one really supports them
Yeah.
because everyone's already got their own side here. So no one really follows it too closely. And then the Swans have obviously had a pretty good season thus far. So you just expect them to go over there and get the job done. But Gold Coast were really impressive to come out and beat them by 14 points in the end. So it was relatively close, but you still think Sydney probably should have won that.
Yeah, definitely. Sydney want to be a top 4 premiership team. They can't be losing games like this. And I think it's I think you were saying earlier their SCG record isn't great this year as well. So, a bit to worry about for the Swans. But the Gold Coast, I mean, it's good. I've said it many times. I want the Gold Coast Suns to do well. But I feel like they just have these wins every now and then where they surprise people and it's never really consistent. I'd love to see them put a run together and get close to the top 8 because they need to eventually.
Well, they need to show something.
Yeah.
The Giants have made grand finals, grand final, prelims,
Yeah.
Multiple final series, and Gold Coast haven't got near it.
No.
So, I mean, how long till you just think about wrapping the experiment up? Teams famously don't work on the Gold Coast, and they've lasted long enough now, the Suns, but until they play finals, no one's really going to consider them a serious side.
Yeah, exactly.
I was going to say, I think one thing that was really impressive during that game, though, was Isaac Rankin's little move into the middle of the ground.
Yeah.
They tried something different with him. Obviously, he was sort of, put in that forward pocket position as we sort of known him to be, but moving him to the middle ended up being a pretty good move. He still kicked a couple of goals, but he had a really good game, and I thought that was a bit of not a career-changing sort of moment, but I mean, it gives him more in his arsenal.
Yeah.
I guess it makes him more of a dangerous player, and now that we know he can do that, it's going to be exciting what we see him do going forward.
Well, he's essentially done nothing since his first 3 or 4 games where he absolutely lit it up and probably got a big head from it and went missing for nearly 2 years. So, that's definitely been his best game since his debut. So, good on him. I hope he does well because was he number 2, number 3 draft pick? So
I think he was number 3. But maybe that's something that they should have looked at earlier. They're saying, we've got this talented player. We know he's very talented and he's got all the ability in the world and potential, but he's not getting much of the footy in the forward pocket. Let's bring him somewhere where he's going to get more of the ball and see what he does with it. Surprised it took this long, but they made the change and, it paid dividends.
Yeah. What about the Bombers?
Wow. Aren't they up and about at the moment?
Wowee.
Well, let me just say for starters, it was an impressive win in the sense that very last minute they lost five starting players to, I think it was COVID or just general illness.
Illness, I think it was. Or they had like a virus or a flu or something.
There is a flu going around. I know Richmond had a couple as well. I think there was another team or two that had a few illness players, but they lost 5 players late into the game, and they looked pretty much down and out the entire game until the last quarter where they stormed home and won by 27. But I'll let you give your thoughts on the game just after this. But I wanted to say, I mean, Essendon supporters are all up and about saying, Hawthorn have won 3 games this year. You haven't knocked off Melbourne. They're calling it the miracle and all that sort of stuff. I'm like, it's not exactly a miracle when you've beaten Hawthorn, who I rate Hawthorn, but they've won 3 games this year. They're a rebuilding club. They're not a final side. They haven't really beaten someone massively notable. And now that I've said that, Hawthorn will knock the Tigers off next week, no doubt. But I was still impressive to especially not to know who was in your side, very last minute. And gets 5 new blokes in you probably weren't expecting to be there. It changes structures. It changes a lot of things. I know that. So it was impressive, but probably not as impressive as everyone's making it out to be.
Yeah. Mate, you're trying to steal my thunder and you be careful.
I apologise. I'll back off.
Be careful. We'll wait. We'll touch on that later. What about the D's?
Well, they're just unstoppable.
What does that say on the run sheet? Do you like it?
Jesus Christ. Oh, jeez.
D's.
Jesus Christ. That's
very punny.
That's very punny. Their job. I mean, did we expect anything less?
No. But the Saints were in the top 4 before that game, and Melbourne were 50 points in front.
Well, this is the first top 8 side they've beaten this year, I think, isn't it?
Is it?
Melbourne?
Okay.
I'm pretty sure I could be wrong. I'm pretty sure they've played mostly bottom 8 sides.
Yeah.
So that's not to discredit them. I mean, they've done it quite comfortably and really haven't looked like they're trying against either his side so far. But I think this might be their first top 8 side. And once again, 38 points, pretty comfortable win.
Then they just cruised in that second half.
But that's what they do. Yeah. They just get a nice little cozy lead and they just cruise and don't work too hard. They don't really care too much and they don't want to hurt anybody, obviously, because They're going to have some big games coming up eventually, no doubt, and they're going to want to have their best players on the park.
They got a massive one this week. They got West Coast at Optus.
Jeez, they've got a...
I reckon they can rest every player in their team, just swap their VFL, and they'd still beat them.
Casey Demons could roll out against the West Coast.
Definitely, yeah.
$1 to $19. Jeez. The odds for that game next week. Oh, but it's at Optus, so maybe West Coast could, pinch one over there.
You've gone the early crow with our previews.
I know. I
usually do the betting when we do the previews.
I know. I saw it and I couldn't help myself but bring it up. You mentioned it. You mentioned I had West Coast. We'll talk about it in the preview. Actually, we'll save it. We'll save it.
What about the Mighty Blues, mate? Top 4.
Oh God, watching that with you was bloody heartache yesterday. Let me tell you. Nah, you guys were very impressive. No surprises there. Charlie Curnow, absolutely on fire. Geez. Patrick Cripps, another 3 votes. I mean, everyone was just on song yesterday, and it was, as a Carlton fan, I can imagine how good it would have been to watch.
Wait, can I just say, Charlie Curnow? I think this is going underrated. How good he has been. He hasn't played footy for 2 years, and he's coming second in the Coleman Medal.
He's only 3 goals from the top.
Yeah, but for a player that hasn't played in 2 years, he's kicked bags of 5, 6. He shouldn't be. Should he be doing that? He's had a lot of time out.
He has had a lot of time out, but I mean,
it's a great story.
Yeah, it's a great story, and I think if you think back to what Charlie was doing before his injuries, or he wasn't doing this as consistently, but he was showing flashes, and you saw ability, and you knew that this is the type of player he could be, and all the work that he's allegedly put in the off season while he's been injured and all that. I mean, once again, seems to be paying dividends, and he's been consistent this season. You can't ask for anything more. And like you said, second in the Coleman, he's also competing against Harry Mackay, last year's Coleman medalist. Exactly. So no mean feat.
No, it's crazy, and especially after the round 1 game against you guys, where he barely touched the ball, and we thought, okay, it's going to take Charlie a while to get into this season. Maybe we're not going to see the best of him until halfway through, but geez, and he kicks 5 in round 2, and doesn't look back from there. So it's crazy, and it's so good to see him out there. Him and Harry playing together finally. They barely played any footy together, and they got drafted in the same year. So do you reckon it's the best forward duo, or maybe Cameron and Hawkins are pretty good, but it'd be very close out of those.
Probably in terms of consistency, I mean, I'd have to say those two, Harry and Charlie. Just if you look at the goals they've both kicked, I think they're both pretty high up in the Coleman. I mean, so are Tom and Jeremy though, so hard to look past that. Yeah, it's a tough one. They're pretty much on point.
I think they're definitely the top 2.
Oh, 100% the top 2. I mean, I can't even really think of another duo that's really clicking that well at the moment.
No.
I mean, Tom Lynch and Jack Reward aren't bad, but I wouldn't consider them like a dangerous duo. So I think those two are definitely the ones.
Yeah, same age, both athletic. It's good. It's very good to watch. And then Harry. I think Harry's just been super consistent. Hasn't kicked bags, but he's just been chipping away.
Hasn't needed to.
No, exactly. Charlie's been doing it. So it is exciting. And Blues are in the 4, which is good. We haven't beaten strong opposition the last couple of weeks, but the way we've played has been really impressive. We've been able to put teams away. And as you mentioned, Cripps is doing Cripps things. He's a freak, and he's definitely be winning the Brownlow medal at the moment for sure.
Is there a way to tag him? I heard we were talking about it on SEN today. Well, not we, I was included, but they were talking about it on SEN today. And they're questioning how you tag someone like Patrick Cripps, and I don't think you can.
I don't think you can.
You can just put a body on him and try and block him a little bit, but you can't really tag him because he's a contested beast. That's what he loves. So unless you can find a way to not let him get to a contest, which how do you do that?
Well, I think you're going to have to let another big-bodied midfielder go at him. I think Jack Steele did it to him a couple of years ago and shut him down. But that was before Jack Steele became like his own ball-winning player. When Jack Steele he was pretty much a shutdown player.
Yeah, no,
2 years ago.
He used to be a massive. That was his role.
Yeah, and he shut down Cripps just from doing that. So you probably need a big body to go with him.
Well, I think the person I've probably seen do it the best, Jack Steele's done it pretty well, but Pendlebury did a good job one time as well, which is surprising because he's not really a lockdown.
Just smart, just positioning.
Just a very smart footballer. Scott Pendlebury is one of my favourites of all time. He's a genius. So that's probably how we figured Cripps out then. But yeah, you're right. It's going to take something special to slow him down.
Yep. No, it's great. It's great to see. And again, another great story. His body was absolutely cooked the last 2 years, and it just shows how many other players are out there that are, their bodies are cooked and they're copping so much criticism. People think they're done. There's always there's always hope. I never thought Cripps was done. A lot of people in the media did. But yeah, he's playing career best, which is scary because he was the best player in the comp in 2019 and he's gotten even better. So it's great. And yeah, Blues in the 4. I think I've gone on.
Yeah, I think you mentioned before we touched too much on Dusty. I think Carlton's had a bit too much of a run. So
enough.
Let's move on for that one.
What about the Naughty Eagles?
Mate, they're reminiscent of the early 2000s.
Did you see the name and shaming and everything? It was like the Barley 9 just on the news today.
I didn't see that. That's
pretty funny.
That is good.
Yeah.
That's good. But yeah, that's, I don't know, interesting. I just found out today as well that the nightclub that they attended, which is what we're referring to, obviously the nightclub incident, about 7 of their players were seen out at a nightclub breaking COVID protocol, I believe, like Eagles protocol.
Yep.
And it was after the Richmond game last week, which, I mean, I don't know about you, but if I've had a 110-point loss, the last thing I want to do is go to a nightclub.
Yeah.
But these guys obviously thought that was okay. And even if it wasn't breaking COVID protocols, if you're a team that's struggling as much as the Eagles are at the moment and you're a professional athlete, wouldn't you be doing everything you can to try and get yourself and also your teammates at the best physical condition you can possibly get in to try and help yourself win games? Because at the moment you're not getting anywhere, and surely going to a nightclub isn't helping. Now, I'm not saying players can't enjoy themselves. We spoke about Jack Ginnivan last week. He went to the pub with a mate. No problem with that. But if you're getting belted every week and you're just going off and I know they wouldn't have been celebrating, but going off and partying and drinking and all the rest of it, it's only inhibiting your abilities. Yeah. So for me, I think West Coast have done it. I think they've all copped a pretty heavy fine.
Yeah, they're just having the season from hell, aren't they?
I reckon. I mean, tell me what you think, but I reckon West Coast, they're losing pretty much all their games anyway.
Yeah,
I reckon a massive statement would have been to suspend these guys. Now, I know the argument is, but they need the players. They're already missing a lot. But it's like, but they're going to lose games. They're going to lose those games anyway. So making a massive statement like that, dropping those players, I think would have been huge for the club and been a big, I don't want to say big boost because obviously you're just losing, good players. But I think it would have been the right thing to do.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, if they were in a better, list management position where they had more players to choose from, I think they definitely would. But yeah, I just think their hands are tied with this one.
Yeah, a little bit, but that's why you can look at it two ways.
It is. It's a tough one.
Because I think if they were in a better position and they were pushing for finals, then they're probably less inclined to drop 7 players because you're pushing for finals. But when you're in a position where you're probably going to lose all your upcoming games regardless, I think make the statement. Yeah, but that's just for me.
Yeah, no, it's an interesting discussion, that one. But I'm sure we can all agree West Coast suck, so stuff them. All right, let's move on to round 9. Friday night footy, just the one game on Friday night this week, which is good.
Thank God. We had a lot of complaints, not to the podcast directly, but a lot of people I was speaking to had a lot of complaints about it. No one was really happy.
And I mean, especially with the second one, like Freo North, how did that even deserve it? Like, even if that was by itself, that would have been poor.
Yeah, that's terrible.
So it made no sense.
I would love to know the numbers, like who was watching these games.
Yeah. No.
Especially the fact that Freo was like, 8:40 at night it started?
Yeah, it didn't finish till up past 11 o'clock.
Yeah,
so it was
no one's staying up to watch that game.
Yeah.
So
anyway, but yeah, this Friday night we've got Collingwood and the Bulldogs at Marvel. This will be a good game.
It's always a good game between these two sides.
But the Dogs need to win. I mean, the Pies need to win too. I mean,
the Trelaw Cup.
They probably had some expectations after a pretty solid start. Like they probably believe that they can push for finals as well.
Well, I believe they can too if they get a few wins on the
so
board.
It's a huge game.
And if you look back to last week against the Tigers, I think the margin probably flattered Richmond a little bit. I mean, Collingwood did kick a couple of junk time goals, but I didn't think we were that much better than them, if that makes sense. I thought Collingwood were pretty good regardless, just a few silly mistakes. So it wouldn't surprise me if they went over and knocked the Bulldogs off. But being at Marvel Stadium and the Doggies just losing to Port Adelaide, if this doesn't light a fire in the Dogs' bellies, then I don't know what will. Yep. And I think that they'll come out on Friday night and get the job done in the Adam Trelaw Cup.
Yep, I think the Dogs as well. I think if they drop this, then I think they're done.
No finals?
Dogs, I think so.
Yeah, if they lose to Collingwood at Marvel, their home deck.
Yeah,
you're right. I agree.
They're done. They have to win this. Saturday Arvo, Hawthorn, Richmond.
Oh God, another Saturday afternoon
145.
Game. It's like the AFL doesn't pay attention to what I say on this podcast, despite the fact the fixtures were released a long time before I said anything.
You got to earn your prime time spots.
3 flags. Okay. Going to be a good game. Going to be a really good game. Hawthorn are probably due
I
for another
thought
win.
Hawthorn were rubbish, you were saying not too long ago.
No, I didn't say they were rubbish. I said they've only won 3 games.
Yeah.
But they're probably due for another win because they played some pretty decent footy as well. I mean, they only just lost to you guys by a point, I think it was, and had a couple other close encounters this season. So they can definitely give us a run for our money. But I think if Richmond continue the form that they've been in against the last 2 sides, then we should get the job done. And with Prestia and Vlossen coming back into that lineup, I think it could be pretty scary. So I reckon the Tigers.
Yeah, it will be good to have Prestia back for a week, won't it?
Yeah, well, thankfully not an injury last week. It was just illness.
Yeah.
So just the 1 week. But yeah, who knows? You'll come back to another ACL or not an ACL, a hamstring or something like that. So touch wood.
Yeah, Richmond for me as well. North Melbourne, Port Adelaide in Tassie.
Ooh.
Yeah. It's hard to speak North, even though it's down in Tassie, but I think Port. Comfortably? What? You looking at me like you might tip North?
Well,
You just called them irrelevant about 10 minutes ago.
I did call them irrelevant, but I'll jump into it early because this leads into my big call. A big call.
Okay, no, wait. Maybe don't
I
tip.
I think it's obvious now, though.
We'll save it. Yeah, but we don't know the details.
Okay, we don't know the details.
I'll pick Port. You do your pick when the big call comes on.
Okay, sounds good.
St Kilda Geelong at Marvel.
Saints need this, don't they?
It's going to be a very good game. I find this one very hard to tip.
I think St Kilda have played such good footy at Marvel Stadium this year that it gives me hope that they can, gives them a bit of faith in them. And I reckon they can get the job done against the Cats. And I haven't watched Geelong super closely this year either, so I'm not really... I've seen their wins, losses, but I'm not really aware of...
They're going win-loss,
they've been
win-loss,
playing.
win-loss.
Yeah. And had a win on the weekend, did they not?
Yeah. Against the Giants.
So, due for a loss. And Saints are due for a win. So, I'm going to go the Saints just, and only because it's at Marvel and they play some seriously good footy there.
Yeah. I'm going to go the Cats, but yeah, well, this can go either way. Honestly, a flip of the coin. It'll be interesting to see how the Saints bounce back. And if Geelong can get some sort of consistency, which they've lacked this season, so be a great game. Saturday night we've got Sydney and Essendon at the SCG.
You'd expect the
Swans have to bounce back.
Yeah, they have to, don't they? Especially home again 2 weeks in a row. They can't lose to Essendon.
There can't be another miracle at the SCG, can there?
Surely not. Surely not. Nah, especially just going by even the teams on paper, you could go the Swans in this one.
Adelaide, Brisbane at the Adelaide Oval.
Oh, Brisbane. Brisbane have to get this one done, don't they?
Brisbane. Sunday over, we've got Gold Coast and Freo at Metricon. Could this be interesting?
No, I think it could be.
Gold Coast
could cause an upset.
They're good at home.
They are good, and I reckon they could cause an upset. But I don't think they will. I think Freo will win this one.
I think Freo will win, but I wouldn't surprise me if it's a tight game because I'm pretty sure Gold Coast beat them there last year.
They did.
Yeah. So, it'd be a good game.
Freo's a different side though.
They're much better. GWS and Carlton at Giants Stadium. I don't like
Giants.
this. This makes me sick.
Why?
Because this is because we never beat GWS at Giants Stadium, or we actually never beat GWS.
In general,
I think we beat them. We probably beat them when they were, just founded, when everyone was beating them.
So if you didn't beat them, then you have some issues.
And then we've probably beat them once or twice since. So they're like Gold Coast for us, where we just can't beat them.
Okay.
So
there you go. Interesting.
Is that going to change your tip?
No. I still think Carlton will win this one. Okay. The form you guys are in at the moment, it's hard to see.
We're
losing to a team like GWS.
Definitely should win.
They may be a bogey side, but I think you'll break the bogey this year. You've done it already with Richmond.
Yeah, we've broken bogey. We still can't.
Just can't beat the Gold Coast. Yeah, just can't beat Gold Coast. But I think you'll beat the Giants next week or this week.
Yeah, I think we definitely should win, but I'm not confident. That's for sure. And then
Melbourne's got the bye next week.
Yeah, I know. The final game is a bye, so that's interesting.
Melbourne versus the Eagles.
Give us the odds. What were they again?
$1 Melbourne to West Coast $19.
I don't think I've ever seen. Is that the longest odds ever for an AFL game?
I'm not a
it would have to
aficionado.
Be. So $19 is.
It's got to be up there.
That's uncompetitive.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind putting some money on this game.
$19. I did hear Max Gawn might miss it.
Put a tenner. Yeah, I saw that. Put a tenner on West Coast to get the job done.
Imagine that.
But remember Melbourne last year lost games to bottom of the ladder?
No, but the West Coast is different.
Yeah, I know, but I'm just saying, imagine this is their first loss of the season against West Coast and you put a sneaky tenner on this one. I'm not going to. That's a waste of money, but I'm just saying.
the
No,
D's.
I'm not. Yeah, Melbourne win this game hands down, no problem. Yeah.
Poor West Coast, though. They had Brisbane and Melbourne 2 weeks in a row. Unlucky.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's move on. Crimea River.
We shall.
Do you want me to do it
We're doing the
first?
Crimea River. We're going to go with the
Actually,
big
no,
call.
go your big call while we're in tipping mode.
We'll go in the tipping mode. We'll go the big call. So obviously, I think it was made pretty evident who
Yeah.
I'm tipping for this game, and I don't know why, but North, Port Adelaide, by all means, Port Adelaide should win this game very comfortably. But I think if North were ever going to make a stand and prove to the AFL world that they're not a nothing club, as I kind of just referenced to earlier, they might go over to Blundstone Arena in Tasmania and get the Chockies against Port Adelaide in a very, very close match. So I don't know how confident I am with my big call, but I had to make one this week, and that's the one I'm rolling with because I think North desperately need to show something.
I thought Port were back.
No, I think Port are back, but I think if North can get something done, that's something I know. I know I've been very contradictory today with the things I've been saying, but that's my big call that North will just get the Chockies down there in Tasmania.
Yeah, I like it. I like it, but I'm a bit confused with your mode of thinking at the moment.
I'm confused as well. Don't worry, mate. I just needed to pick something, and that was what I ran with. So
that's what the big call does. It brings out some weird things in you.
For those that don't know or haven't picked up on it, we do usually make the big calls off the cuff and sort of run with them as we go.
You think about it all week, don't you?
Sometimes, yeah, it depends. So, no, a lot of times off the cuff. But I think that makes it better because you're not thinking about it too much. You're just sort of going, nope, that's the one I'm rolling with.
Exactly. It's worked well for you. It hasn't worked well for me.
Well, I'm one from one.
Yeah.
So we'll see. We'll see. But if I completely butcher this one, it'll be back in your hands next week. But for this week, it was me, and you've got your Crimea River.
Yep.
So we'll cue JT.
Let's do it. I'm probably going to upset a few people here, but so Saturday night, Essendon played Hawthorn. Essendon had 5 laid outs. Okay, that's bad. Like any team that loses 5 players at the start of the game is bad. But then you look at Essendon's team that night, and they still had a very strong team out there. Like they had some of their best players playing. You know, Peter Wright kicked 6 goals. Darcy Parish was good. Zach Merritt was good. Dylan Shield was good. Sam Draper was good. They had some very good players playing. And then they played Hawthorn, who not many people are expecting to do great things. I mean, yeah, they've been impressive in some games, but, you know, everyone was tipping Essendon to be a lot better than Hawthorn this year. And then, yeah, Hawthorn were 25 points up, and then Essendon kicked 8 goals in the last quarter, which is impressive. But, come on. They're calling it like they've just beaten Melbourne by 10 goals, and here we go, Essendon's season's turned around. They've just beat the mighty Hawks. You know, Peter Wright kicked 6 goals, which is fantastic, but the miracle at Marvel, seriously.
It's a very interesting terminology.
Great win, but come on. Like, it's not a... Like, I don't know what else to say here without making it sound like we're too Essendon.
Do it. Run with it. Go for it.
I just feel like it's... You've had such a poor season, and you're
second win. Yeah,
you're hanging your hat on a win against Hawthorn where you were down by 30 points and came back against a team that has the worst last quarter record in the AFL at the moment.
Yeah, so, they do.
They blew a 30-40 point lead against Sydney the other week at 3/4 time. So, I mean, good on you, Essendon. Like, well done. You got your second win of the season. You got out of the bottom 2, which is good. But I just miracle at Marvel, I think, is a bit much. And you can at me if you want. We can get you all on the podcast next week and we can have a discussion about it. But that's my Crimea River, and I think you'll have a bit of a wake up call this week against the Swans at the SCG.
That's probably my favourite Crimea River of the year.
I wasn't sure about it because of our history with Essendon and with it. But like that's just how I saw it. Great win, but let's not get carried away with it.
Well, you're right. I did kind of steal your thunder earlier. So as you know, I do agree with you.
Yes, I know.
But yeah, you're right. That's probably should have ran this by each other before we went with that.
I saw Cameron Ling said something very similar today on 7AFL, which
did he?
I don't love Cameron Ling, but he did make a good point on that as well.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, like you said, it is impressive. You still came back from how many points? Peter Wright kicking 6. Anyone kicking 6 is a great effort.
But they still had a better team than Hawthorn that night on the park.
That's the thing as well. So, I think Devon Smith was one of the ones that was brought into the side.
And he played well.
And he played well, which he needed to do. He needs to find a consistent side.
Yeah.
Consistent spot back in the side is what I'm trying to say.
Andrew McGrath was another one. Like, he played really well. They had a very good team out there, Essendon. So, relax.
Can't tone it down, Essendon fans. It's your second win for the year. And we're 8 rounds in, so
come on.
You're 2-6.
Yeah, let's string a couple more together and we'll talk. But yeah, I'm sure I'm going to cop a bit for that, but that's fine. That's all a part of it. We love it. We love the Essendon fans so much. So can't wait to talk to you during the week.
The most unbiased fans in the league.
All right. Well, we probably should wrap up there, shall we?
I think that's it. We're done for the week.
Yep. Make sure you leave us a review. I'm sure they're going to be pretty vile this week from the Essendon fans. But if you're not an Essendon fan and you love that, make sure you give us a great review. YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you listen to it. Make sure you follow us, and we'll chat next week.